Own son, forged papers, breakfast in what I thought was a Barcelona spa. I smiled, signed with flair, and 2 hours later the doors clanged behind me, foreign, sterile, suffocating. Brandon had forgotten one tiny fact. I survived 30 years with his father without ever losing my edge. Tricks? I had a lifetime of them tucked up my sleeve. The building gleamed, white stone and manicured gardens, fountains singing like nothing was amiss. Dr. Martinez greeted me with the practiced warmth of a predator in a tailored suit. "We've been expecting you." Of course. My inheritance had been announced, my presence here premeditated. $2.3 million, the house, the insurance, motivation enough to betray blood. Amber and Brandon played the devoted duo flawlessly. Amber unpacked my bags, brandishing smiles like weapons. Brandon whispered to Martinez in the hallway, fragments catching my ear. Temporary guardianship, medical necessity, American consulate. Their choreography betrayed the stakes. They left. Taxi swallowed them down the tree-lined drive. A slow, sharp pulse of anger coursed through me. I would be more than fine. I would be spectacular. First, though, I needed to map the deception, measure its reach. Dinner brought revelations from other captives. This was no wellness retreat, private psychiatric institution specializing in family betrayals. Some patients here were genuinely ill. Others, like me, were trophies in an inheritance game. Elena, 8 months trapped, whispered about controlled communication and false dementia claims. Determination replaced nausea. Whatever papers they had, whatever lies they told, I would dismantle them. Next morning, Dr. Martinez arrived, clipboard brimming with documents, commitment forms, powers of attorney, financial transfers. I feigned confusion, leaned on polite trust. Every signature, every clause, memorized. Their plan was to cage me and mine my estate. My signature became intelligence gathering. The team introduced itself. Psychiatrist with broken English, social worker armed with my fabricated decline, nurse with suspicion baked into every glance. Each symptom, paranoia, forgetfulness, hallucinations of my late husband, was a fiction, penned with intimate cruelty. Sedatives were offered for anxiety. Keep the mother compliant, they thought, while emptying her coffers. Afternoon brought my first ally. Maria Santos, janitor with sharp eyes and sharper courage, whispered truths I could no longer ignore. The wealthy rarely left here. Her knowledge of my son's oversized payment, the depth of their plan to erase me. But they had underestimated me. By day 3, I knew the rhythm of the facility. I knew the routines, the vulnerabilities. I had a plan. Morning would be the first move. Medications at 8. Hidden under my tongue, spit out once the nurse left. Therapy at 10. I played confusion like a violin, making the drugs seem effective. Lunch at noon, guards distracted. Afternoon, Maria roamed the administrative floor. The keycard system was clever, but no fortress is flawless. Each staff member had doors they could enter. Dr. Martinez, everywhere. Nurses, medical wings. Maintenance like Maria, almost everywhere, except the executive offices. Except one door. Emergency exit in the laundry room. I'd found it my first sleepless night. Alarmed, yes, but bypassable. 35 years married to an engineer had taught me more about circuits and security than my son imagined. The real battle wasn't escape, it was proof. Commitment papers, financial documents, payment records, all needed to reach the American consulate. Without them, I'd be another confused elderly woman spinning accusations. Maria became my lifeline. "Dr. Martinez keeps copies in his office," she whispered. "Payment records, correspondence, everything." She'd been watching the facility ruin families for 6 years, and some of us, she admitted, saw the truth behind the walls. A network of staff, silent but aware, who'd never had someone determined enough to act. If I could reach that office, could she help? Maria hesitated. Caught trying to escape, you go to the secure wing. No one leaves there. I smiled. Then I whispered, then I won't get caught. Night came. Minimal staffing. 3 guards. Entrance, rounds, camera station. Timing was my ally. Camera guard swap, 15 minutes vulnerability. Emergency door disabled with a trick learned from my husband. Electrical tape over the magnetic contact. Invisible, effective. Returning? Another problem for another day. Maria promised a window unlocked at 6. Discreet, hidden, perfect. Shadows became my cloak. Darkness, my accomplice. By 3 a.m., I was outside a 24-hour internet cafe. My credit card worked. Brandon hadn't frozen accounts yet. Overconfident. Overestimating sedation and obedience. 3 hours researching Spanish law, consulate procedures, and a lawyer, Dr. Carmen Ruiz, known for taking on predatory institutions. By 6, I was back in my bed, pretending sleep, hiding every trace of my nocturnal freedom. Pills spit out, tape removed discreetly by Maria, routine uninterrupted, suspicion non-existent. Dr. Ruiz arrived Thursday, purpose in her stride, briefcase-like armor. Emails had worked, consulate involved, wellness check demanded, Spanish authorities scrutinizing. Brandon and Amber were about to discover just how little control they truly had. Mrs. Harrison, legal visitors, Dr. Martinez stammered. My act, helpless confusion. Ruiz sat, sharp, furious. Are you being held against your will? I think my son brought me here for my own good, I murmured, feigning frailty while supplying her every necessary detail. Memory issues, documents signed, everything documented without revealing my hand. My incompetence became the weapon that dismantled their legality. Afternoon brought Spanish social services. Evening, American consulate representative. Brandon panicked on the phone the next morning. I couched every word in naive charm. Oh, the lawyers? Memory isn't very good anymore. His tight control slipping. International kidnapping, false imprisonment, elder abuse, fraud. The potential charges loomed. Maria delivered the coup de grace, photocopies of Dr. Martinez's files, payments, correspondence, pre-arrival psychiatric evaluation, dated 3 days before I'd even left Phoenix. Evidence, unassailable, damning, and mine. The children who tried to erase me had underestimated one immutable truth. Margaret Harrison does not vanish quietly. The forged evaluation was almost admirable in its audacity, detailed, clinical, dated days before I'd ever been examined. Brandon had paid for fiction, bribed a foreign facility to warehouse me indefinitely, all while playing the devoted son. Tomorrow, when he and Amber arrived, they'd be stepping into a carefully baited snare. Spanish authorities, the American consulate, and a mother who would stop pretending to be confused at exactly the right moment. They showed up Friday morning looking hollowed out. No sleep, no confidence. I, on the other hand, felt wonderfully rested. Funny how clarity improves when you know the endgame. Dr. Martinez ushered them in like nervous royalty. I lifted my head slowly, let my eyes unfocus. Brandon rushed forward. I clutched at him as if afraid he might vanish. Questions, I said. So many questions. The doctors keep asking things I can't remember. Brandon's gaze snapped to Martinez. Amber squeezed my hand, syrupy concern dripping from every word, checking if I'd signed anything new. I mentioned the lawyer, casually, sweetly, watched Brandon blanch. Then Dr. Ruiz entered with Spanish officials and a consulate representative in tow. The temperature dropped. Introductions were made. Words like irregularities and documentation floated calmly through the room, deadly as cyanide. Brandon stood, lawyer instincts flaring too late. Dr. Ruiz produced the psychiatric evaluation. Name the doctor, name the dates. then dismantled it. The physician didn't know me, wasn't even in the state. Amber's grip tightened until it hurt. I asked her, gently, to stop. The consulate asked about the money. $50,000. Excessive. Brandon babbled about quality care. Ruiz asked about the power of attorney. Standard precautions, he said. Cognitive decline. That was enough. Actually, Brandon, I said, my voice steady, precise, unmistakably sane. Someone has been managing my finances, just not for the reason you're claiming. Silence. The good kind, the kind that lands before a collapse. I told them everything. The forgeries, the plan, the sedatives, the money. I watched my son struggle to reconcile the woman in front of him with the one he thought he'd buried under paperwork and pills. Amber cried real tears this time. Brandon asked if I'd been faking. No, I said. I was genuinely confused, just not about what mattered. Then I explained what else they'd missed. My lawyer in Phoenix, Arizona elder abuse statutes, search warrants, account audits, fraud alerts triggered by their clumsy hands. Brandon folded inward, air leaking out of him. Explanations followed. I declined them. I asked Dr. Ruiz to press charges. She smiled like someone who enjoys her work. When Spanish authorities led my children away, I felt lighter than I had in decades. Not vindicated. Free. The flight home gave me 8 uninterrupted hours to think. Extradition was only the opening act. I went straight from the airport to Patricia Williams' office. She was sharp, delighted, honest about the complexity. Family access muddies cases. I agreed. Then I showed her the rest. Amber's firm, Brandon's psychiatrist friend, a paralegal neighbor specializing in elder law. Not coincidence. Infrastructure. We dug, slowly, methodically. The findings were worse than I'd imagined. Unauthorized transfers, quiet investment shifts, and then the policy. 6 months old. Brandon as sole beneficiary, double indemnity, foreign death. Patricia's voice softened when she told me the value. I didn't soften back. They hadn't just planned to steal from me. They'd planned for me not to come home at all. I asked for everything. Every accomplice, every forged signature, every broken law. Federal agencies would be needed. Good, I said. Call them. That evening, I sat in my own living room again. Same furniture, same walls. But now I knew exactly what had been planned here. What conversations had taken place about future, laid out before me like a crime scene. My phone rang. Detective Sarah Martinez from the Phoenix Police Department's Elder Abuse Unit. Mrs. Harrison, we finished our preliminary search of your son's residence. You need to see what we found. 20 minutes later, I was standing in Brandon's home office, staring at evidence that made my blood run cold. A meticulous timeline of my husband's final illness, research on accelerated inheritance procedures, and, most chilling, a folder titled Contingency Plans, detailing 3 solutions for the Margaret situation. 1. Spanish facility, control and isolate until natural death. 2. Declaration of incompetence and placement in a U.S. secured care facility. 3. Euphemistically termed medical intervention during travel. Detective Martinez leaned in. We need to discuss protection arrangements for you. If my son posts bail, he won't, I said firmly. His passport is confiscated and Spanish authorities are holding him until extradition. But his associates are still here, and they have just as much to lose. That night, under police protection, I realized exposing Brandon and Amber was only the beginning. A network of people had helped orchestrate my disappearance. But like my son, they had underestimated Margaret Harrison. I was about to show them the cost of that miscalculation. Omar, Dr. Marcus Webb, looked nothing like the monster I expected. Across from me in the FBI interview room, he appeared to be a concerned family friend, claiming he'd merely advised Brandon on care for a mother allegedly in cognitive decline. Mrs. Harrison, he said with rehearsed empathy. Everything I recommended was based on Brandon's descriptions. If he misled me, I'm as much a victim as you are. Special Agent Linda Cooper, leading the conspiracy investigation, maintained a neutral expression, but her eyes told a different story. I smiled politely. Dr. Webb, how did you diagnose my condition without examining me? I didn't diagnose anything, he replied smoothly. I provided general information about facilities for age-related cognitive decline. I tilted my head, opening a folder Agent Cooper had given me. Dr. Webb, are you familiar with Elena Vasquez, Thomas Chen, and Dorothy Miller? He faltered. No. All three were committed to foreign facilities based on your recommendations in the last 2 years. Each inherited substantial assets. Each died within 6 months of commitment. Silence. His lawyer leaned forward, shaking his head. My client has no knowledge beyond consultation with Mr. Harrison. Strange, Agent Cooper interjected. Phone records show 17 calls to Serenity Wellness Center over the past 18 months. That's a lot for general advice on one family. I watched Marcus Webb shrink in his chair. This man had helped orchestrate at least 3 deaths and nearly added me to the list. I produced another document. The life insurance policy Brandon took out in my name. The medical history listed could only have come from someone with access to my actual records. His lawyer scribbled furiously. Are you suggesting my client illegally accessed confidential medical information? I'm stating it as fact, I said. Dr. Webb accessed my records through the hospital system, then used them to help Brandon fabricate a credible medical history for the insurance application. Agent Cooper nodded. Forensics confirmed it. 14 unauthorized accesses to my medical records in the 3 months before I left for Spain, and records for Elena Vasquez, Thomas Chen, and Dorothy Miller. The room was silent except for the lawyer's pen scratching desperately across his pad. Dr. Webb, I continued, how much did Brandon pay you, flat fee or percentage of inheritance? I think this interview is over, the lawyer interrupted. Actually, it's just getting started, Agent Cooper replied. Dr. Webb, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder abuse, insurance fraud, and computer crimes, federal charges only. Handcuffs, please. As they led him away, satisfaction coursed through me. One down, but the investigation revealed a network far wider than I'd imagined. Amber's firm helped structure transfers. Karen Wright provided legal advice, and others turned elder abuse into a lucrative enterprise. Then came the evening call from Agent Cooper. Mrs. Harrison, the stolen funds weren't just divided among conspirators, they funded a larger operation. Golden Years Consulting. Marketed as a service for families managing elder care, it's actually a sophisticated scheme identifying wealthy seniors, manufacturing medical crises, and profiting from their institutionalization, or death. I sank into a chair. How many victims? So far, 12 confirmed over 3 years, likely dozens more. My son hadn't just betrayed me, he'd helped run a system targeting the elderly nationwide, preying on people who'd worked their lives to provide for family. What can I do to help catch them? I asked. Agent Cooper's plan was audacious. Golden Year's annual retreat in 2 weeks. My role, bait. Pose as Eleanor Blackwood, wealthy widow seeking guidance on protecting assets from greedy family members. The goal? Record them revealing their methods. I nodded. These were the same people who had planned my murder. Helping them be caught was the least I could do. The retreat was at an exclusive Scottsdale resort, irony thick in the air. Predators hiding in a paradise built to represent the lives they ruined. For a week I prepared. Identity, backstory, recording devices. Most critical, psychological preparation. I had to appear vulnerable but remain alert, weak enough to bait them yet strong enough to outwit them. The attendees matched expectations. Well-dressed professionals monetizing misery, doctors, lawyers, financial planners, even funeral directors specializing in expediting family transitions. Dr. Rebecca Chen, retreat coordinator, greeted me warmly. Eleanor, I understand you're dealing with family complications regarding inheritance. My late husband's children think I'm too old to manage assets, I said, worry lacing my tone. I need options to protect myself. You've come to the right place, she replied smoothly. We specialize in helping people exactly like you. Much for her, I said softly, letting the lie settle in. Brandon nodded, accepting it without question, entirely unaware that the person before him was fully alert, fully aware, and fully prepared. I smiled at the table, keeping my tone warm and concerned. It's a difficult time for families, I continued, and I'm so grateful there are professionals like you to guide people through it. Dr. Morrison leaned forward, eager to demonstrate expertise. Absolutely, Mrs. Blackwood. Our goal is to protect you while ensuring your assets are preserved. David Chen chimed in. We can implement immediate measures tonight: secure facility, trusts, full management of finances, complete protection. I nodded, feigning relief. That sounds wonderful. I can't tell you how reassuring it is to find people who truly understand the complexities of inheritance in family dynamics. Meanwhile, every word, every gesture was being recorded by hidden FBI cameras and microphones. Each explanation, each plan to isolate and control elderly clients, each euphemism for forced institutionalization, or worse, was being captured in perfect clarity. Brandon's eyes flickered nervously as he noticed me exchanging a brief glance with Agent Cooper's team stationed discreetly in the room. I kept my smile. He didn't know that while he thought he was orchestrating my removal, he was inadvertently confessing every detail to law enforcement. Dr. Rebecca Chen raised her glass for a toast. To new clients and secure futures, she said, smiling brightly at me. To secure futures, I echoed, my voice perfectly polite, my eyes locked on Brandon's. Brandon returned the toast, completely unaware that the Eleanor Blackwood he had referred to their operation for, the very target he intended to manipulate and control, was actually his own mother, fully cognizant and fully prepared to bring him and his entire network down. Dinner proceeded, each attendee discussing past successes with unsuspecting clients, revealing the inner workings of Golden Years Consulting in meticulous detail. Every scheme, every manipulation, every financial arrangement, all of it was now part of the record. By the end of the evening, the FBI had everything needed to dismantle the organization completely. Brandon, Amber, and their co-conspirators had just provided the evidence required for arrests, indictments, and the destruction of the empire they had spent years building on exploitation and greed. As the night concluded, I rose, smiled warmly at Brandon, and whispered softly, "Thank you for the introduction." He looked puzzled and I walked away, each step a symbol of the reversal of power. Tonight, Margaret Harrison wasn't the victim. Tonight, she was the reckoning. And there they were, vivid, resilient, and alive, just like me. Each blossom seemed to whisper a quiet truth. Survival isn't just about enduring, it's about thriving, reclaiming your power, and turning betrayal into purpose. I leaned back in my chair, letting the sunlight spill across the room, thinking about all the lives that had been touched, all the families saved from the same fate. I had started as a target, a pawn in someone else's cruel game, and now I was the author of the ending, a story of justice, resilience, and triumph. The roses outside weren't the only things blooming. So was I, fully aware that strength doesn't fade with age. It only grows deeper, tempered by experience and sharpened by adversity. And as the wind carried the faint scent of petals through the open window, I smiled. I was Margaret Harrison, unbroken, unstoppable, and finally, completely free. The world had tried to write my ending. I had rewritten it instead. The end.